Today is Tuesday, February 7th, 2023. Just want to do a shout out to my ovum. Today, back in 2020, is when we got into a relationship. It was on Friday, February 7th, 2020. I love you. I shall be reading to you all the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 7, verses 1 through 29, and the Gospel of Mark, chapter 7, verses 1 through 37. Hope you all are having a wonderful wonderful time with these videos. Gospel of Matthew, chapter 7. Judging others. Stop judging, that you may not be judged. For as you judge, so will you be judged. And the measure with which you measure will be measured out to you. Why do you notice a splinter in your brother's eye, but do not perceive the wooden beam in your own eye? How can you say to your brother, let me remove that splinter from your eye, while the wooden beam is in your eye? You hypocrite, remove the wooden beam from your eye first. Then you will see clearly to remove the splinter from your brother's eye. Pearls before swine. Do not give what is holy to dogs, or throw your pearls before swine, lest they trample them underfoot and turn and tear you to pieces. The answer to prayers. Ask, and it will be given to you. Seek, and you will find. Knock, and the door will be opened to you. For everyone who asks receives, and the one who seeks finds, and the one who knocks, the door will be opened. Which one of you would hand his son a stone when he asks for a loaf of bread, or a snake when he asks for a fish? If you then, who are wicked, know how to give good gifts to your children, how much more will your heavenly Father give good things to those who ask him? Before I continue on, many years ago, I heard at an event, and I've heard it different times too, but I first heard about this many years ago, maybe at a conference or something. But anyway, so the passage I just read about, ask and it'll be given to you, and so on. The easiest way to actually remember that ask, seek, and knock is to just remember the acronym word ask. A-S-K. A. Ask. S. Seek. K. Knock. That's all I wanted to say. And I've heard it in homilies and other places as well. The golden rule. Do to others whatever you would have them do to you. This is the law and the prophets. And the top 10, I think, faiths, religions, belief systems, sex cults, they have that rule. They have the golden rule in them. The narrow gate. Enter through the narrow gate. For the gate is wide and the road broad that leads to destruction. And those who enter through it are many. How narrow the gate and constricted the road that leads to life, and those who find it are few. False prophets. Beware of false prophets who come to you in sheep's clothing, but underneath are ravenous wolves. By their fruits you will know them. Do people pick grapes from thorn bushes, or figs from thistles? Just so, every good tree bears good fruit, and a rotten tree bears bad fruit. A good tree cannot bear bad fruit, nor can a rotten tree bear good fruit. Every tree that does not bear good fruit will be cut down and thrown into the fire. So by their fruits you will know them. I just was thinking about something. This just dawned on me. Back in Genesis, I guess it was chapter 1, or no, I think it was chapter 2. The second version of the creation of the world. The first chapter is the 7 days, and the second chapter, it's not the 7 days, but another version of the creation story, most about Adam and Eve and stuff. But anyway, God created the 2 trees in the Garden of Eden, the tree of knowledge of good and evil, and the other tree is the tree of life. But the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, this is thinking, I guess that tree was bearing both good and bad fruit. Just something to throw out there. Something to digest and ponder about. Anyway. The true disciple. Not everyone who says to me, Lord, Lord, will enter the kingdom of heaven, but only the one who does the will of my Father in heaven. Many will say to me on that day, Lord, Lord, did we not prophesy in your name? Did we not drive out demons in your name? Did we not do mighty deeds in your name? Then I will declare to them solemnly, I never knew you. Depart from me, you evildoers. The 2 foundations. Everyone who listens to these words of mine and acts on them will be like a wise man who built his house on rock. The rain fell, the floods came, and the winds blew and buffeted the house, but it did not collapse. It had been set solidly on rock. And everyone who listens to these words of mine but does not act on them will be like a fool who built his house on sand. The rain fell, the floods came, and the winds blew and buffeted the house, and it collapsed and was completely ruined. When Jesus finished these words, the crowds were astonished at his teaching, for he taught them as one having authority, and not as their scribes. And that was the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 7, verses 1 through 29. Now on to the Gospel of Matthew. But yeah, my old man and I have been in a relationship for 3 years. According to today, 3 years. And now off to the Gospel of Mark, chapter 7. The tradition of the elders. Now when the Pharisees, with some scribes who had come from Jerusalem, gathered around him, they observed that some of his disciples ate their meals with unclean, that is, unwashed hands. For the Pharisees and, in fact, all Jews, do not eat without carefully washing their hands, keeping the tradition of the elders. And on coming from the marketplace, they do not eat without purifying themselves. And there are many other things that they have traditionally observed, the purification of cups and jugs and kettles and beds. So the Pharisees and the scribes questioned him, Why do your disciples not follow the tradition of the elders, but instead eat a meal with unclean hands? He responded, Did Isaiah prophesy about you hypocrites? As it is written, This people honors me with their lips, but their hearts are far from me. In vain do they worship me, teaching as doctrines human precepts. You disregard God's commandment, but cling to human tradition. He went on to say, How well you have set aside the commandment of God in order to uphold your tradition. For Moses said, Honor your father and your mother, and whoever curses father or mother shall die. Yet you say, if a person says to a father or mother, Any support you might have had from me is Korban, meaning dedicated to God, you allow him to do nothing more for his father or mother. You nullify the word of God in favor of a tradition that you have handed on, and you do many such things. He summoned the crowd again and said to them, "Hear me, all of you, and understand. Nothing that enters one from outside can defile that person, but the things that come out from within are what defile. Anyone has ears to hear ought to hear." When he got home away from the crowd, his disciples questioned him about the parable. He said to them, "Are you and you likewise without understanding? Do you not realize that everything that goes into a person from outside cannot defile, since it enters not the heart, but the stomach, and passes out into the latrine?" Thus he declared all foods clean. Before I go on, that also kind of references the Acts of the Apostles, when God showed Peter the white sheet with the lots of animals, and God said, basically, what I declared clean is clean, and what I declared not clean is not clean, and everything I make is clean. So suck it up, Buttercup. Continuing on to Mark. But what comes out of a person, that is what defiles. From within people, from their hearts, come evil thoughts, unchastity, theft, murder, adultery, greed, malice, deceit, licentiousness, envy, blasphemy, arrogance, folly. All these evils come from within, and they defile. The Syrophoenician woman's faith. Syrophoenician. From that place he went off to the district of Tyre. He entered a house and wanted no one to know about it, but he could not escape notice. Soon a woman whose daughter had an unclean spirit heard about him. She came and fell at his feet. The woman was a Greek, a Syrophoenician by birth, and she begged him to drive the demon out of her daughter. He said to her, "Let the children be fed first, for it is not right to take the food of the children and throw it to the dogs." She replied and said to him, "Lord, even the dogs under the table eat the children's scraps." Then he said to her, "For saying this, you may go. The demon has gone out of her daughter." When the woman went home, she found the child lying in bed and the demon gone. The healing of the deaf man. Again, he left the district of Tyre and went by way of Sidon to the Sea of Galilee, into the district of the Decapolis. And people brought to him a deaf man who had a speech impediment and begged him to lay his hand on him. I also have a speech impediment. That's why I stutter sometimes. But anyway, I remember when I was a reader at different parishes, I always prayed to St. Moses before I read, because he was also slow to speech, I guess the correct term was. So yeah, and I've always been able to read the readings and the prayers of the faithful and the epistle for Easter vigils, without problems, and other masses and stuff. But anyway, where was I? All right. He took him off by himself, away from the crowd. He put his finger into the man's ears and, spitting, touched his tongue. Then he looked up to heaven and groaned and said to him, "Aphathia," that is, "be opened." And immediately the man's ears were opened. His speech impediment was removed, and he spoke plainly. He ordered them not to tell anyone, but the more he ordered them not to, the more they proclaimed it. They were exceedingly astonished, and they said, "He has done all things well. He makes the deaf hear and the mute speak." And that was the Gospel of Mark chapter 7, verses 1 through 37. Again, a shout out to my Obum. I love you, and happy 3rd anniversary. Please subscribe to my channel and check out my other videos and playlists. God love ya. See you in the next video.